in the next minute or two, but I'm going to go ahead and get started. My name's Carrie Waterman, and I'm with the Office of Farm to Fork with the CNIP program. And today's webinar is really to go over the RFP for the 2025 expansion program for the WIC and the WIC and Seniors Farmers Market Nutrition Program. All of the information for this grant is on our website. And for today's webinar, we'll go over an overview of CDFA's mission and the CNIP program. And then this specific application, we're going to spend some time on what's new and different from 2023 and 2024. And then discuss the pilot program that's using the electronic software to do exchanges. And that's one thing that'll be new for next year. And then we'll get really just into the proposal sections of the RFP, talk about the budget and narrative, and then have time for questions and answers. If you have any questions during the webinar, you're welcome to either raise your hand or write them in the chat. And we'll either answer them at that time or during the webinar. So CNIP's mission is to encourage the purchase and consumption of healthy California-grown fruits and vegetables and nuts by nutrition benefit clients, including CalFresh, WIC, FMNP, and senior FMNP clients at certified farmers markets and small businesses. And our office offers grant fundings to organizations to provide incentives to these shoppers, also to support the program operations of them, which we'll talk about a lot today with these new programs, and then also facilitate outreach. Again, this is kind of the center place to go for looking for information on this program. And the website is listed up top, and you'll see the link for the RFP, the budget calculator, and the track 1 and track 2 template. And then we'll also be posting some of the FAQs after this webinar and those that we've gotten in the last few days. Just an introduction to the team. All of us are here today except for Winnie, our budget analyst. Sarah Hansen is the program manager. Meyer is the program coordinator who will be doing all the grants management. And then I'm helping with the grants and also helping host webinars like this and do outreach for the programs. We're just going to show you a little video here about the CNIP program that covers the CalFresh aspect, as well as the WIC and the WIC Seniors FMNP programs, just to get an idea of how this works and how the benefits are provided.
Carrie, we're not getting any sound.
Okay. Well, I'm going to just move on and share the link and see if I can get it at the end, if that's okay. Thanks for noting that, Sarah. Unless I'm not going to work on it right now. I think it's better.
I'm just trying to set up the...
Okay. And that is also on the website if we're not able to show it today so that you can view it there. In previous years, these are some of the organizations that have been funded through the WIC and WIC and Seniors program. And you can see that they're really throughout the state. And so if some of you are on the call today, that's great. And we hope that you'll reapply. And for others, if you're applying for the first time, that's great. And if you're also looking to find other resources for people who have run the program, then this is a great slide to kind of look at who may be in your area and who's been working on these. For this specific proposal, we're looking for eligible entities for project proposals from qualified who can support nutrition incentive shoppers and or to distribute the nutrition incentive shoppers by helping them out for WIC FMNP and or senior FMNP benefits to purchase California fresh fruits and vegetables at authorized certified farmers markets. And we're encouraging projects that reach communities in the following categories: low access and low income populations, where there's also a high percentage that are eligible for the CalFresh, WIC, and FMNP and senior FMNP programs, and where there's also high rates of diet-related diseases. So getting into what's new for 2025 and why we're also happy to have some guests here who are really experts in this field is that the senior FMNP program will only be distributed electronically through the SFMNP Farmers Market Card, which you can see here in the slide. This is what's been being used in the pilot programs. And so they won't be paper scripts. They'll be on a card that has a QR code on it. And so for a vendor or a farmer to accept these benefits, they will need to have either a smartphone or a smart device and access to the internet. And then the participants will be issued a physical card that would be scanned by that farmer or vendor. The WIC FMNP plans to transition to electronic distribution using a farmer's market card or a similar solution next year, and there'll be further information on that coming soon. This year, applicants may only apply for just 1 year of funding since this is going to be such a transition, and so we'll look at that timeline, but this is a good opportunity to basically transition and start to work with this program that's in transition. I was able to go down to the Modestos Farmers Market about a week ago to see how one of the pilot programs is running. And so just like very briefly from seeing it kind of from an outsider's perspective, it looked pretty simple and straightforward. The senior shopper presented their farmers market to the vendor. They used their smartphone and this web-based application, opened it up, scanned the QR code on the card. The client then provided a 4-digit code. This may not be needed next year, but at the time it was being used. And then the vendor's able to make that purchase and provide the shopper with their existing balance after that purchase. Some of the things that I heard there were that they were able to remember the PIN number because it was their birthday, and they were also happy as shoppers because they could spend, break a dollar or $1.50 at different vendors, and that made it easier for them. This web-based program currently operates in English, and so they had other vendors that spoke Spanish and English and were able to help both customers and other vendors that were using the pilot program. Does anyone else who's been more involved in this that want to speak on this? Otherwise, I'll just move forward and introduce some of the folks working on these pilot programs. Today we have Nancy joining us from the WIC division at CDPH, and Katie with CDFA, and some of the organizations, Laura and Cynthia and Laura Hughes with the North Coast Growers Association. So if you all would like to take a moment to introduce yourselves, and if you want to speak on this exciting new transition that we'll all be going through, please take a moment to.
I'll go ahead and start. Cynthia Ojeda, Executive Director of the Model Neighborhood Program. And we have been very much involved in these programs for many years. And we were very excited to be approached to facilitate the pilot program for the senior WIC. And it's been a lot of fun. And Laura, I will pass on her introduction to her, as had a lot of hands-on experience with the program as well.
Hi, I'm the incentives coordinator here at Model Neighborhood Program, and I did try to be on site for every week during the duration of the pilot, and working with the workers on site and the seniors that were a part of it. And for the most part, the workers were able to, you know, those that had the familiarity with the technology had a great time. They really enjoyed being able to utilize another, you know, way of helping people. And this, most of the seniors just, they also really appreciated being able to participate. And the program itself is really important to a lot of them. I heard a lot of testimonials.
That's great. Thank you. And thank you for joining.
Hello, my name is Nancy Magana Benoit, and I'm the Farmers Market Coordinator for California Department of Public Health WIC Division. And we oversee the authorization of the training and authorization of the farmers for both the senior program and both of our WIC programs. I'm excited to say that we're doing our public announcement today at a meeting at 3 o'clock. So for those of you that have been hearing from me for 3 years about it's coming, it's coming, it's coming, I can say that with all assuredness that it's coming. The one thing I wanted to say apart from all that is the WIC Farmers Market card will not only be just for the Farmers Market Nutrition Program, but we are changing it so that all farmers will also be able to accept the monthly WIC benefit. So we're really hoping to expand the program quite a bit by going electronic.
Thank you.
I can go next. Hi, everyone. I'm Katie Vonderleith. I'm a project manager at the Office of Grants Administration at the CDFA, and I'm overseeing the transition to electronic benefits on the senior side. So I was working with the lovely folks at the Model Neighborhood Program and North Coast Growers Association and the Modesto Farmers Markets to implement the pilot this season. And we are just about done with the season and still kind of collecting lessons learned, but I'm excited to be on this pilot and share what we've learned so far.
Great.
Um,
Thank you so much.
Yeah. I'm Laura Hughes. I am the Director of Operations at the North Coast Growers Association and have worked very closely with Nancy for many, many years, making sure that as many of our eligible farmers are signed up to participate in the FMMP program as possible. We have a pretty high percentage of our ag producers that actually participate in the program. We are a membership-based organization. We operate 10 farmers markets. Our largest market has about 80 vendors on any given day. And so this year we were excited to be one of the 4 market association locations that participated in the pilot. We worked really closely with Nancy and Katie to get our farmers onboarded, which is always a bit tricky. Getting farmers, many of whom are allergic to paperwork, signed up for these kinds of programs. So we found it to actually be pretty successful. I did not encounter nearly as much resistance as I anticipated. We only rolled it out with a handful of our farmers who I know like check their emails and have smartphones to sort of simplify the process instead of trying to onboard everybody. So we're really looking forward to the expansion of the program in 2025 and getting everybody onboarded, especially since there will be no more paper checks. So lots of lessons learned, looking forward to workshopping how to improve it in the future, but we've had a pretty good run of it.
Great. Thank you all so much. I really appreciate it. And yeah, there's nothing like lived experiences to help guide other programs. So thank you. And yeah, everyone will be on the call. So if you have any questions specific for them, you can put it in the chat or reach out as well. So I'm going to continue on with kind of the technicalities of the RFP unless anyone has any questions at this stage with what's new with the program in 2025. Okay, so with that in mind, because there are some changes, we've offering 2 tracks for this RFP. Track 1 will offer the incentives and can provide support, so technical support. So these are for organizations that are probably already running this and can continue to match or distribute those incentives to shoppers at authorized farmers markets, as well as doing outreach and marketing and support. So, funding for salary and these types of things, and also training for these new electronic software programs as well. And then track 2 would only be support and technical assistance. So you would not need to provide the actual incentives, but you would need to be working with an organization that is providing those incentives. And this would be just for these new senior and WIC shoppers using electronic benefits, and really just the senior ones for this, if I'm speaking correctly on that at this stage for 2025. So that's kind of the difference. Again, incentives and support, and then just support only with no incentives. So I'll go through the application in terms of funding and duration, eligibility, timeline, again, specify the differences between those tracks, cost sharing, the requirements, review, award notification and evaluation criteria. And then Meyer, again, will go through the different proposal sections and the budget template. So for the funding and duration, CDFA anticipates up to $750,000. And again, it will only be for 1 year. We hope these funds would be available by April 1st, 2025, and then they would need to be expended by December 31st. So it would really just be for, that next year's season, a very short but important time frame. And for eligibility, this is limited to the following entities, either certified farmers markets that are already authorized to accept these benefits, or nonprofit organizations that are applying again to work with the markets in providing technical support, outreach. This could even be things like setting up hotspots and providing, technical assistance on just going from paper to electronic. Eligible applicants also have to be in good standings with the CDFA and the state, SNAP authorizations, and the state controller's office. So just all, budget things are in alignment. And then looking at the proposal timeline, the proposal will be due December 16th at 5 p.m. And then we would like to have preliminary selection notification by February 1st at the latest, and funds available at the latest by April 1st for that next season. And again, expended by December 31st. So this really only leaves 9 months. So that's, I think, critical to think about when you're looking at the budget and what you're trying to apply for and what's feasible in that time frame. And then I think in coming years, we'd hope to have it more than just maybe 1 year and maybe go back to 2 years. But for now, this is what we're working with, considering these changes. So just to get into a little bit more of the details of the different tracks, again, would be incentive distribution and support. So to distribute CNIP incentives to WIC, FMNP, or SFMNP shoppers at authorized farmers markets. And then supporting activities, like I said, outreach and marketing assistance to farmers using the new electronic software. And some of these allowable expenses are going to be, funding for the incentives, support for incentive tracking, physical incentives if you're still using the tokens or coupons, and then also mobile hotspots and outreach, again, for these new programs and technical assistance to provide them. Track 2 is really going to be, again, no incentives here. This is just supporting activities such as outreach, marketing, technical assistance. We've listed some allowable expenses here, but if anyone has any specific questions right now or wants to put them in the chat, or even has suggestions for what other supporting activities might be good, you're welcome to kind of be creative here to see really what can help make these programs, more expansive and effective. So does anyone have any questions about the difference between track 1 and 2? Okay, we'll keep it moving. So cost sharing is not required for this grant, but it is encouraged and it will be considered when making funding recommendations, and is just weighted with a few points, I think, in the criteria. And this can take the form of cash or materials or in-kind support from organizations, or, for example, if you already have funding for a farm market manager to be there, then those would be, again, really good cost sharing examples. just logistical requirements, all sections outlined in the application templates, depending on which track you select, should be submitted in Microsoft Word format, and the attachments also in Microsoft Word or Excel. The proposals are limited to 15 pages. The sections do have character limitations, so just so that you don't, write so much if it's not necessary for those things. And proposals that exceed this amount would not be considered. If you have any other technical questions on this, please again, let us know. And the proposals will be submitted directly by email to the California Forum to Fork, again, by December 16th at 5 p.m. And then please use the 2025 California Nutrition Incentive Program Expansion Program in the subject line, and include all of the components, and then you will receive a confirmation. And we can also not assist in the preparation of proposals, but can assist with answering questions about them. And again, if you submit questions, we'll compile them into a FAQ that's available. For the evaluation, we'll conduct an initial administrative review, and then and make sure all the application requirements have been met, and then go through a technical review as well. And we can disqualify proposals if they're incomplete or have irregularities. There is an appeals process at that initial technical review stage. So if that occurs, there is an appeals process. I'm not going to read all through these, but that is available. And if you have any questions, let us know. And then all applicants should be notified regarding whether they've been selected by January 31st of 2025. And then we reserve the right to work with selected applicants to modify their proposal. So we might come back and say, hey, can you reduce the budget or something like that? So just to keep in mind, and just putting up that timeline there again for you all. So the evaluation and funding requirements, again, there'll be this administrative review, very more technical criteria of do you meet eligibility? So make sure if you're putting in the effort to apply for this grant that you are eligible. And if you have any questions regarding that, please let us know. For the technical review, they are slightly different, whether it's track 1 or track 2, because we do have a category that will evaluate how the incentives are being run, basically through operations there. So those are broken up, and I suggest looking over the evaluation criteria as you're writing the different sections to see how they'll be weighted and how they'll be evaluated. But these are the main categories for track 1, and these are very similar for track 2, other than you don't have that operations with the incentives. And so the point scores are a little bit different in terms of the technical assistance and the support to vendors. In terms of reporting requirements for the grant, with invoicing, this is a reimbursement grant program, and invoices are submitted quarterly, and you can be expected to be reimbursed within 45 days after the invoices are submitted. Track 1 recipients will be required to submit their monthly reports on the amount of incentives distributed, but then if it's just track 2, they'll just be that one final report. So that will be for both track 1 and track 2. That can describe more of the technical support that was done in that. Okay. So I'm going to stop there and let Meyer continue on with the proposal sections. Does anyone have any questions at this time?
We have a couple of questions in the chat.
Okay.
I don't know if you want to go over them now or we can come back. I know Sarah is also, for folks who have questions in the chat, Sarah is also responding to you as well. But yeah, so as Sarah is responding to the questions in the chat, that's we can also come back after this section to answer some of the questions that folks have. Unless there's anything, Carrie, if you want to tap on, I will go ahead and get started. So for the proposal section, I'm gonna go through most of it very quickly just because I want to save more time for the Q&A at the end. I know that a lot of folks have a lot of questions about this transition, so we want to give you all the time to be able to ask the questions that you have. So the proposal sections that I will go through, this is all on the RFP. Again, you can find this on the CNIP website. And I'm just going to pinpoint a couple of pieces that I work with when I work with grantees that I found that is often missed or is very tiny, but it's also very important to keep in mind of as you are working on the proposal. So again, we have two different tracks, making sure that when you're working on the different applications, you're looking at the one that you want to apply for. So if you're doing track one, there are some difference in the track one application that is different from track two. So just keeping that in mind as you are working on the proposal. One thing I want to point out for the first part of the proposal section, if you didn't get a chance to join us for our last webinar, is the organization's legal name. So just emphasizing that this is the fiscal sponsor of the organization. So even if you're maybe doing business as, or if you are a project under a bigger organization, the organization's name that we want on the application is the fiscal sponsor. So the one that we will be doing the reimbursement check to. And then if you are doing business as, or if you are a project under, you can also include that note under the organization's legal name. So just to point that out, and we can go to the next slide. Locations. So for track one, you're listing out the locations of the sites that you are distributing the incentives at. For track two, you're listing out the locations of the sites that you're providing support to. If you're track one and you're distributing incentives, but you're also providing support, let's say you are providing assistance to sites that you are not distributing incentives at, you'll also list that, but just differentiate it. I don't think we have a specific area in our RFP, but if you can differentiate that just so that we're also aware of that difference too for folks who are doing track one. And all right. And then for responsible party contact information, this is the person that if you are awarded the grant fund and we're to send out the grant agreement to, this is the person that we are sending it out to, and this is the person who is signing the grant agreement. So maybe you might have a grant manager who is working on the application, who is also communicating with us during the proposal. But if there is a person who is responsible to sign the agreement, that will be the person that we'll have here as the responsible party contact information. All right, next slide. All right, yep. Your project goals and outcomes just with the timetable and activities. And really, I think just to emphasize on that, like we want to be able to see the numbers. We want to be able to see like the time period of how your project, what are your goals, and any numbers that you have for the communities that you're serving. We want to be able to see that here in the project goals and outcomes, and also the activities in the timeline. For the next slide. So one section that will be different between track one and track two is section G for the technical assistance and the support. If you're track one, if you are providing any technical assistance, you can describe that in section G. But if you are track two, that is your program. So therefore, we would like for you to really go in depth here for how you will provide the technical assistance to farmers and to also shoppers as well. So again, that's your program for section G for those who are doing track two. As if we go next for section for operations. Track 2, you do not have this section, so only folks who are doing track 1, the incentive distribution, this is where you will describe your program for how you are your incentive design is going to look like, how you're going to track the California grown fruits and vegetables. That's where you will go in depth with how your program for incentive distributions will be like. But for folks who are doing track 2, this part is not in your application. So keep that in mind as we go into the next slide. This is, oh yeah, so this is also a part of the operation as well. The technology that you will use to track the incentives, and also how are you distributing the incentives as well. So when we go into the next slide, this is where the section starts to be different for each of the tracks. So track 1, you're still on I, you're on I, and then track 2, you're still on H. And so again, if you're looking at both proposal as you're working on your proposal, just keep in mind that if you're track 1, you should have the operation segment. If you're track 2, then that part is out. Okay, but yeah, these are all the questions that are on the proposal that we'll be scoring your application on. So making sure that you get to each of the section. So I think I'm gonna skim through most of the next pieces. Like I said, this is on your proposal. This is where your proposal, everything is gonna be written here. CDFA is not able to assist when it comes to writing out your proposal, so just keep that in mind. Okay, and then I guess, okay, so we're now on, we can go back to, oh no, I think Carrie already mentioned it, cost share, this is not a requirement. And in the previous years, we did have cost share and matching fund as its own scoring criteria. That is also taking out this year. So we're looking at the cost share and the matching funds that you're providing, we're gonna look at that as a whole of your budget. So you won't find that metric in the criteria for this round. Okay. And then the budget narrative. So something new that we're doing this year, and we also did this with the CNIP, the 2025 CNIP RFP, is that we're adding a budget spreadsheet, and that is the hope to streamline everyone's budget from the time we receive your proposal to when we're working on the grant packets, and also sending the grant packets to execute the grant agreement. And so when you are submitting your proposal, you're also submitting the CNIP budget calculator overview Excel spreadsheet. And if we go into the next slide, that spreadsheet is also on the website as well. So right under the RFP, you have the spreadsheet along with track 1 and track 2 template. When you go into the spreadsheet, there are 3 tabs. The first one is just an example so folks can see what is to fill in. And then the second tab, the budget calculator, that's the one that you are going to input all of your expenses. And we left it pretty open. So because I understand that everybody has like their own formulas on how they want to calculate their expenses. So the only column that has formulas already would be the total budget. So that is the one all the way onto your right. That's the only one that has like formulas already, then it will calculate everything for you. But everything else, we left it pretty open. So, if you have any like growth and yeah, I don't know. Well, we only have 1 period too. So that also changed. It would be a little bit different. We have like 3 periods, but this is also 1 period. So you're only doing this for 1 season, for 1 period. So, but we left everything pretty open for you. If you would like to create a different tab so that you have more detailed calculations that you want to add in, you're also more than welcome to do that as well. And you can also submit that so that we can see if that's something that you want to be able to share with us. And I would say that just based off of the last batch of proposals that we got, the spreadsheet does not have a lot of lines for cost share. So if you want to be able to provide more details about the cost share and the matching funds as well, you can also create a copy of the calculator tab and enter information for the cost share instead. I understand that was a piece that it got a little bit confusing for the spreadsheet. So if you want to have a different tab for that and then just enter the match share that you have at the end at the bottom, then that is also okay. As long as you label it the cost share, we should be able to find that. And then the last tab here, the third one, overview, is just a very quick overview so that you can easily see your total for each line items and also for the end of the total direct and indirect. And the goal, if this is something that you find that will be useful for you, is to start off with a spreadsheet so that you can easily streamline all of the numbers and the total amount back onto your budget narrative. But if you have a system that works for you already, that's okay. Go for it. Do what works for you. But the hope is just to make this a lot more streamlined so that, you know, we're not missing little things like, oh, there was like $10 off. And I know that that was something that was a lot of going back and forth in the path with some of our grantees. So just want to be able to streamline that process a lot faster for everyone. So let's see, that's it for the budget narrative. And then now going to the budget narrative, again, the contact information that you have, it should also align with the responsible contact party that you have earlier in the proposal as well. Okay, and then these are all just the different section of the budget narrative. We'll go through it quickly, but just keep in mind that even with the spreadsheet that we have, that is really just to help you calculate the numbers, but you'll still have to insert the numbers and also the description of each of the items that, each of the expenses that you're including in the budget. Okay. Yeah, so everything is pretty much the same except for track 1. You have the section for incentive, and then track 2, you don't have the section for incentive. But everything else is pretty much the same. If you apply for CNIP expansion proposal before, it's pretty much the same aside for the difference in the track. So that is it on my part.
Thank you, Meyer.
Yeah.
Does anyone have any questions at this time, or are there any in the chat, Sarah, that you want to address? Otherwise, I'll just add a little bit more before we open it up. Do you want to jump in now?
No, I was going to ask at some point Cynthia to jump on and talk about her process, but go for the rest of that, and then we can move on to that in the Q&A.
Okay, perfect. So hopefully this has been helpful, and just to also remember that there are a lot of other programs at CDFA, so we encourage you to check out their grants webpage, and we've just listed a couple that might be of interest to some of you all as they're in the same kind of arena and space. And so please do look at those, and then really thank you for your interest in the program and attending the webinar. There's our email, and then we will open it up for Q&A here, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen. So you're welcome to write it in the chat, or turn your camera on and introduce yourself and ask your question.
And if it's okay, I might start. There's a question that just came in from Marisol that I'm hoping maybe Katie can jump on just to sort of clarify again the process of how this sort of works with the new card. And then maybe following that, if I could have Model Neighborhood describe how they're using paper incentives on top of this electronic thing. And then we can go around with raised hands. Thanks, Katie.
Yeah, no problem. So starting in the 2025 season, there will be no more checks. It will all be the benefits distributed on those cards that you saw in the PowerPoint. And so on the cards, there will be both Senior Farmers Market Nutrition Program benefits and CNIP benefits on the cards. So to the senior, it'll probably just look like one big pot of benefits. I don't know exactly how much we're going to put on each card, but let's say it's $50 of SFMMP and then $10 of CNIP. It'll look like $60 to the senior. And these benefits will be distributed by the local area agencies on aging and their partners. So like farmers markets, unless you're working with CDFA to distribute the benefits regularly, you wouldn't be issuing any benefits on the card. There are some exceptions like the North Coast Growers Association who actually does distribute the benefits for us. So they would be actually issuing the benefits, but for most folks, the card, you'll just see seniors with the card, and they'll be spending at the markets. And I think will there be a portal? Yeah, so there will be a portal for folks who are actually issuing the benefits to the seniors, but I'm imagining that 99% of the folks on this call won't be doing that. And I think now might be a good time to pass it to Cynthia, who can share about how it worked at her market, because for her market, the seniors had the cards with just the senior farmers market benefits, and then they issued paper match for the cards.
Thank you, Katie. So we used color coded paper script, and we operate which a lot of you do as well, I believe, numerous grant programs, nutrition programs. So we have to identify them to track those redemptions for the purpose of these specific grants. And we've done it a number of ways. One specific grant will allow the incentive to be used at our participating markets, more than one. Other times we have it where it's for a specific market. And so I'm gonna pass this over to Laura, because she is actually our program coordinator and can respond to this question in terms of reporting as well, because it is a very delicate process.
So the way we did it in this pilot, for the people that were specifically a part of the pilot, we had the opportunity to work with the senior center directly that was administering the cards. So we were able to capture all of these people that were coming into the market with the cards and actually taking down, creating a roster and handing them their benefits at the beginning of their shopping experience. And then but we had to also continue to work with the people who have their checks. So creating and checking your rosters on a weekly or biweekly basis, in our case, was a really key thing that we needed to do in order to keep people from being double matched, because a lot of these seniors cannot retain the information very well. We've had people come up multiple times trying to get matched. So we tried our very best at the beginning of the season to directly speak to many of these seniors at the senior centers at the beginning of their distribution of the checks. And so we were able to get, again, that was where we try to really preemptively get these people their incentives and get their names in our rosters, so that we have that and we can check that on the biweekly basis per market. And that was very key. Now, we still have people who kind of wander in, they come in from, they don't hit the information booth. So we have a system with our farmers in which when people come up and they use their card or they spend their voucher check and they have not yet been matched, the farmers would take their voucher, they use the card, and they would, for the people with the vouchers, they receive a special chit that they bring to the information booth, where we again check to see if their name is on the roster, and we get them into our system and match them that way.
Thank you.
I think one of the things that people are going to have to, if I can just elaborate a little bit more, these seniors, we're working on two pilots. We're working on the WIC FM&P and the senior FM&P pilots, and the seniors really are going to take some care As Laura said, there's even when they come to a new market, there's confusion. Also, they will hand their card to a friend. And so you have to be prepared for many variables with the seniors. Again, there's a lot of confusion with how the card works with them. You have to hold their hands through the process. You need dedicated staff that's used to working with these folks that these seniors can identify with. It's very, very helpful to have a seasoned person working with these seniors. And tracking the matching with them is critical when you're working with them at different locations. You have to be able to move your information from one location to the other. Because you're going to get, as Laura said, a lot of the same people coming up. They're going to ask if they can turn their cards into other forms of script. So it's simple, very these are people who can just simplify a process. And so there's going to be a lot of engagement with them. And it's, it'll take time. People will get it. It's a new program, but you really need to staff up on this program.
I agree with that. We actually had to bring on an additional staff person for every market where we were doing this because it was too burdensome on the actual on-site market staff who needed to do market management stuff. So we are lucky enough that we have a staff team that we could actually assign additional staff, but I would expect to write that into your proposal.
Right.
Thank you for the tips. Were there any other questions, or Sarah, any that you wanted to highlight?
I think Brian had his hand up earlier. If Brian's still here.
Hi, yes, I am with Brian. We are a nonprofit and we work in a very rural community in the Antelope Valley. And we've been trying to help create a certified farmers market. We're working with a landowner who has taken the steps with the state to get certified. And we want to incentivize farmers to come in and sell there. And so the question is this grant for us? Is this something we can, use some of this funding to help, people in the community establish this and have it become a source of food and produce and healthy things for them? Because currently their options are limited and they have to travel about 30 miles out of the rural community to be able to get anything healthy per se. And so should we consider applying for this grant, or is this grant for an established farmers market who already has the farmers there? And that's the question that we have, because this will depend on whether or not we apply for this.
Yeah, excellent question. I think you would be eligible to apply for sure if it's a certified farmers market, but the reason it might be a little bit more skewed to established ones is you do need to be working with vendors who are going through the process of being approved to accept the FMNP benefits or the WIC cash value benefits. And so Katie and Nancy, are working with their teams to make sure that as many new farmers and vendors are onboarded. But traditionally, at a lot of these farmers markets, right, many of the vendors are already currently authorized to accept the paper checks, and now we're sort of transitioning them over to the authorization for this new program. So in that sense, it's a little bit easier to work with already established markets. It doesn't rule out newer markets and sort of working with that assistance, but that is a cornerstone of the project, because we just our authorization from the legislature is only to sort of add on top of those benefits. So we need to make sure those benefits are established there, or in the process at least of being established, if that makes sense.
So just to clarify, so as this landowner who is working on this, I think he's currently in the process right now of applying to accept these benefits there, as a way for, because I think initially when they started, it was difficult to get farmers to come out to that area because we're really far away. It's a low income community. It's a lot of retired seniors. They're all on limited benefits. And so it doesn't incentivize, fancy farmer markets to come out or farmers to come out and sell. So that's one of the things that we wanted to know. And so if he's already in the process, should we consider taking the leap and applying for this grant? That was the question.
Can I add to that, please? We currently do not have local agencies that serve the Antelope Valley that participate in the FMMP program. However, since we're looking at having CVB benefits available as well, that could be a game changer and those agencies may want to apply. So I would reach out, probably to me first, and then I could connect you with the local agency people. We can kind of work that out, because I'd hate for you to go through all of this and I don't know on the senior side, Katie, what kind of benefits you guys have in Antelope Valley, but I would hate for you to do all this work and reach out and then not be able to get it off the ground because the benefits aren't being issued in your area.
Thank you. We definitely will reach out to you guys because we do see this as something that can help our community. It's just sometimes it's a little harder to figure out which direction to go. But I do appreciate the feedback and we will be sending an email.
And I
Thank you
just
so
want to
much.
follow. Oh,
Go ahead.
I was just going to follow up. We also have another nutrition incentive program that's tied to CalFresh, which could also be of interest. We just closed that application. But as part of that, you can reach out to us and we can sort of, send you more resources and possibilities about how to join onto maybe one of our already funded partners that are working with farmers markets throughout the state. So that could be another option if you're looking at the CalFresh incentives, but separate from this webinar to focus on the WIC and the C.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Thanks. And I see Dina, you have your hand up if you'd like to ask, and then Erin afterwards. We just have a few minutes left, so if we can try and
yeah,
get to
Dina
everybody.
and I'm from Cal State University Northridge, working with Ventura County WIC program. Just curious, maybe I've missed this, and I appreciate the description from the Model Neighborhood program regarding paper and electronic. However, my understanding is that the WIC FMMP electronic situation is completely new. So I'm just not understanding. We've used paper incentives in the past. How we'll combine this as if this is a new program, and when the electronic benefits will actually begin. Is it beginning now with April 1st? Is that my understanding? I'm missing a piece here. The other part to this is that we work with the Mixteco population, which, doesn't have a written language. It's only an oral language. So would translator costs be acceptable, because they do need quite a bit of guidance? They're often very low literacy on top of everything else. So we've found that we've needed a lot of help at the markets over the last couple of years.
I'm going to let Nancy answer the WIC question, but translation is definitely allowable in this program.
Thank you.
I was writing a note and I kind of forgot a little bit what it was. I can't really give you any timelines at this point because it's not out for public announcement till later today. And yes, the WIC will be new. The goal is that we're able to get the farmers going to do CVB benefits first over the winter time, so that we're not waiting till the season starts. There's a lot of variables that work into that, so I can't really give you anything definite at this point. But I would suggest for any of the local WIC agencies on here, or people that are working with local WIC agencies, to reach out to me, and especially after this afternoon, and I will be happy to talk to you more about kind of where we're going.
Thank you. Yeah, it'll be helpful for understanding how to write the grant.
Thanks
for
so
sure.
much, Nancy and Dina, for your question. Erin, would you like to ask yours?
Sure, and I'll make it really quick. And I apologize if this has already been answered, but our hotspots is those are an eligible expense. Great. And the other thing, I just wanted to confirm that the cards are going to continue to be issued like through senior centers and things like that. There's no change in how the benefits are delivered to the eligible seniors, just that it's coming as a card and not paper checks. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. It might change a little bit just because it changes a little bit every year, but it's going to
But they're
be
not
pretty much
doing
the same as it has
mailing
been in previous years.
directly or things like that. There'll still be an interface with an agency, correct?
Sorry, can you say that again?
I said, so they're not going to be doing something like mailing them to individual recipients. They're still going to be going through an agency, delivered to an agency. Perfect. Thank you.
Yes, I will add a caveat that we are thinking about maybe doing an online application, considering, but the senior would still need to go somewhere to pick up the card. They would not be mailed at any
Okay.
point. So
Great. Thanks. Just checking.
Yep.
Thank you so much for the questions and having all the experts on the call.
Could I ask one last thing? Because there was the mention of having an additional staff person at the farmers market. How many hours do you think would be necessary to calculate for that person? Is it a 40-hour a week, or what kind of percentage time was helpful in dealing with all the different administrative duties around this new program?
So I'm going to take a talk from my own experience of having helped the seniors and the farmers on site at our markets. It was helpful for me to be there at least half an hour before the market opened so that we could get all the participating farmers functioning with their equipment. And there did seem to be issues pretty much every market. There were different issues each time. And then in our case, again, we knew that we were going to have an influx of seniors always at 2 o'clock because they were coming on a bus. And then their friends who could not get on the bus were also coming. So there was a 2 hour window at the market where we were very busy with the incentives. So I would say, depending on how long your markets run, making sure that you have a staff person there for, a large portion of your busy time.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, and I would say the office part of it, I handled most of the office stuff, working closely with Katie and Nancy. Oh, during the heavy lift part of the launch, I would say it was probably 5 to 10 hours a week, but it was only for the period of the launch and onboarding. So it wasn't for the whole period of time. We also had the benefit of having Katie come in person to actually onboard most of our farmers. So she was at every market that we were onboarding farmers at for the entirety of the market, and was also helping with the initial issuance of benefits. Once Katie left and we still had more benefits to issue, we needed to have 1 to 2 staff people depending on the size of the market. So at our smaller markets that have, about a dozen vendors, we just had 1 extra staff person for the entirety of the market. But at our larger market with 80 vendors, we had 2 to 3 interns that were there for the entire day. So it really depends on the size of your market and the needs of your folks.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much. It is almost 2 o'clock, so I think that we'll wrap it up. If you do have any other questions for us or for Katie or for Nancy, they've been willing to, post their information out there, and if you can add your emails to the chat as well, that would be great. And Sarah and Meyer and I are also available. So please do reach out, and we'll post the FAQs as well in the next week. Sarah, did you want to say any final words? Otherwise, I'll just say thanks.
Thank you all for joining. There's one last question I was about to respond to in the chat, but this is I'll be a little faster here. The question was if individual nonprofit organizations that have previously distributed benefits will need to apply for this to continue providing these services. No, this grant is just specifically for offering incentives off of the to match the benefits that are currently being used, the WIC and the senior and the farmers market nutrition benefits and the WIC CVB benefits. And it shouldn't. However, Nancy and Katie, as they transition their programs to electronic, will be needing to work with vendors that were previously authorized to accept the paper coupons into the electronic one, and this is offering support to help with that. But this program is specifically for the incentives as well as the support around those programs, if that makes sense. Thank you all for joining. Really appreciate it. Stay dry. I know there's a lot of rain in the forecast, and we really appreciate you joining. You can reach out to all of us. I think all of our emails are in the chat. There's also an email on the website if you have follow-up questions. Thanks so much.
All right, thank you. And we'll also repost a recording of this if there's anyone who missed it or if you want to rewatch it. So thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.